Joining me now to discuss Indiana Senator Mike Braun. He is a member of the Senate Budget Committee and the Appropriations Committee. Senator, good evening to you. I just want you to respond there first to that soundbite from Chuck Schumer, basically saying that if there is a shutdown, it's because of Republican dysfunction.
Jackie, let's put it quickly into context. When I got here, we were $18 trillion in debt, a little under 3 years ago. Now we're approaching $30 trillion. I've been one of the few stalwarts that votes on principle here, so I'll end up voting against the CR most likely. I'll end up voting against raising the debt ceiling. Somehow that stuff gets through with enough of what's been part of the system for a long time. The Democrats are then juggling the biggest spending bill in the history of the country with fake pay-fors, the Build Back Better. So they got a lot on the agenda, and almost all of this keeps driving us further and further into debt, with nobody around here really seeming to care much about it, especially on the other side of the aisle. So there's a lot happening in a short period of time. Of course, they're going to try to blame it on Republicans. I'm happy finally our side of the aisle has had an epiphany, at least, that we can't keep doing the things of the past that take us more deeply into debt in the future.
Right, and that's exactly what happens, right? From a financial standpoint, from the market standpoint, we look at all of this spending. We know that we're printing money to pay for it, and you've got Jerome Powell today talking about how, oh, right, I've been saying that this is transitory, but now it's time to say it's not transitory anymore. And this is going to be with Americans, this inflation, well into next year. How anybody could make the case that spending $2 trillion more is going to help fix it is just completely beyond me.
Throw another doozy in there, the Medicare Trust Fund, which elderly depend on for their health care. That thing goes bust in a little over 4 years. And I talk about that, others do, but until we get to the edge, and we're going to get through this, and sadly there'll be some complicity on the part of others that shove this thing down the road. I do think this is different because Leader McConnell did say a couple months ago that we were not going to enable, raising the debt ceiling. One of the things they got to juggle here, they can do it on their own through reconciliation. Most of the additional spending that none of us had even any say-so in is part of raising that debt ceiling. I'm wondering when we come to grips with reality here that we're just piling more and more onto our kids and our grandkids, and nobody wants to make the hard decisions. That's sadly been my observation in the time I've been here. Yeah, it was interesting because earlier in the show, President Biden took to the podium in Minnesota and he was talking about his infrastructure bill, which was bipartisan, and the jobs that it's going to create and the good that it's going to do. I mean, it might over time, but we need that help right now, and spending for the Build Back Better agenda isn't going to help achieve that goal. We actually met the Republicans on the Budget Committee, which at least was good today, with Penn Wharton, an independent group that sizes this stuff up, a taxpayers group as well. Both say that that is all phony math as well, because when have you started spending and seen any of these things sunset? So if you take the CBO, you take these two groups, it's going to add at least $300 to $400 billion. But if you keep these programs in play, and here's another gimmick, none of the tax revenues that they talk about take place until years 6 through 10. All the spending is front loaded. We add another $2.8 trillion, most likely, to this Build Back Better bill that they're not telling you any of that. Then we're all of a sudden $1.5 trillion in these annual deficits that everybody shrugs off. Sooner or later, that's going to come home to roost. There are two holdouts in the Senate when it comes to the Build Back Better plan. This was some of the conversation at my Thanksgiving table. Do you think that it's possible they continue to hold out? And is there a chance that this doesn't pass? Well, the Georgia elections for Senate are really important now when we're depending on two Democrats to apply the fiscal discipline that their party has no interest in, and that's going to be shoving them hard to push through and accommodate it, probably rather than to stand firm. I hope they do. I hope Biden holds to his word that let's do this next year. Let's let the dust clear a little bit on everything we have spent. It's put us in debt at $30 trillion from the 18 when I got here. That is a sad thing to have to rely on, two on their own side, when the party in the great preponderance wants to plow through and just add more debt to the economy.
Yeah, and when it comes to this to-do list, I mean, there's 1 month left of the year. It's the last day of November today. It's a lot to get done before New Year's Eve. And I'm just wondering, I mean, if I was on the Democrat side here, I would be a little bit nervous about trying to do this. It puts a lot of undue pressure on people.
It does, and it's been embarrassing, the whole idea of the BIF bill, the hard infrastructure that did pass, and then you've got this on top of it. Remember when they were inextricably linked together, then they got decoupled? One of the biggest embarrassments, I think, for Pelosi is how that was navigated, where they got so far ahead of their skis. But they're like political entrepreneurs. They get an idea, they run with it, they go for broke, and I think they'll break the country in the process.
That's a really interesting analogy. Senator Braun, great to talk to you tonight. Thank you so much
pleasure.
for your time.